welcome. I am Kim, Greg's sister. And when I flew in last Thursday, I didn't know I was going to be leading a service, but here we go. So anyway, I know it's wonderful, all his friends here coming from Mammoth, and that's really appreciated. In case anyone needs the restrooms, you just go through that open door, and back on the right is the men's, and then on this side is the women's. And you've probably seen the pictures. My mom put this together. My mom is Marie. She's here today. And so, you know, if you haven't looked at them, you may want to come up. We also have a video jam session that Greg and some of his friends did recently, and that'll be scrolling on my computer back there, and then we'll play some music in a while after people speak. So what I had in mind today is we'll do a couple of moments of silence to honor Greg, and I want to make sure everyone's included. What we'll be doing is just a couple of moments of silence to honor him, and really all religions, deeply held values, heartfelt wishes are welcome. So anything you want to do is perfect. So I'm going to ring the bell, and then we'll start the silence, and then when it's time to come back, I'll ring the bell again to signal that we'll move on with the service. Then I'm going to share some memories, and I will ask anyone who wants to come up and share thoughts or wishes or memories about Greg with the group to do that. And then we'll just kind of wrap up unless there's something someone else wants to contribute. That's kind of what I had in mind for the day. So let's get started then. And you can close your eyes, open your eyes, whatever you feel like doing. Good. All right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about my memories of growing up with Greg. Greg was a wild child. So what I remember most about him was that he was adventurous, and he was tenacious, and he was brave. And he was always moving. So I remember him climbing on furniture and to the top of appliances and jumping over things. And I remember when we were very small, we had kind of a circle in the house, and he made himself a challenge course to go from like the kitchen, jump on the couch, leap over the coffee table. And you know, he was just always moving. And regardless of whether he got cuts in the head or whatever went on, you know, nothing stopped that kid. So he and I both learned to ski at Mammoth when I was 6 and Greg was 4. And what I remember about that is I could never keep up with Greg. So, you know, if he saw a mogul or someplace he could get a little thrill and adventure, you know, of course he would just go right for it. And I'd be like trailing behind, cautiously skiing around a few bumps there. But yeah, he was a guy who loved adventure. Also, he was a wonderful musician, and I think that was just a natural talent for him, because I remember when he was like maybe 5 years old, my mom got him a ukulele, and he could just pick that up and start playing. No formal music training, you know, he was gifted. So one thing, you know, Greg and I were not close as adults, and I did hear what was going on with Greg through my mom, though. And so I remember maybe several years ago, I was on the phone with her, and she was telling me, well, Greg made me this wonderful tea, and it's just, I feel so relaxed, and everything's beautiful, and life is good, you know. And so when I got off the phone, I commented to my husband, like, what kind of tea do you think Greg has given my mom up there? But anyway, I'm sure she enjoyed it. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is the healing with Greg and I may get a little bit emotional. I really am grateful for about a week before Greg passed. I was out just walking, and he sent me a text message. And in this message, he apologized to me. So, you know, for mean things that he had thought and said to me in the past, and believe me, I'm not innocent either. I said things that I should not have said. But he reached out and he asked me if I would forgive him. And that's a rare thing. I don't know that that's ever happened in my life with anyone else before, where he would actually ask me to forgive him. So I just wrote him right back and said, you know, of course, I've forgiven you years ago. And this is who we are. We're human. Things happen. And, you know, I will hold nothing against you. And I've forgiven myself for mistakes that I've made as well. So, oh, and also, he said to me in that first text that he loved me with all his heart, which was, you know, really important to hear that before he passed on. So I'm grateful for all that happened there. And I know he reached out to others, and I know in his last days, one of the things he said to me I called him, and one of the things he said on the phone call was that he had had a great life. And I was really moved by that because I thought he's had all these challenges, and he's dealt with cancer for a couple of years here, and I know that he suffered a lot of pain, and yet he looked at it as he had a great life. And so to me, what I will remember is that he was not feeling sorry for himself, and he was not letting the difficult things take away his joy of living. And so for me, that's what I will remember most about him. So that's all I have to say, and then I think Sarah, Greg's daughter, wants to come up and say a few words for us. And then after that, anyone else who would like to share is welcome to come up too. So,
I don't know, I know some of you, I don't know all of you, but thank you for coming today and being out here. I know that he would have appreciated you being here. Greg was always really quiet with me. He didn't say a lot when we were together, even when I was a little kid. I think he probably would have known better what to say to a son, but he got a daughter who loved to wear tutus and princess things and puffy pink coats, and I don't know that he knew what to do with that. But he, when he did talk to me, he would always ask me what else is new, because he just wanted me to keep talking. And he never got tired of me talking, and for anybody who knows me, I can talk quite a long time, and I talk a lot. I repeat myself, and he never complained about that. So the second thing he'd always say to me is he always asked me if I needed anything. And as a kid, I remember when he would come pick me up in his truck, he'd take me to Toys R Us or the Disney store or Target, and he'd let me pick out whatever I wanted. It didn't matter what the cost was. He'd just say, pick out what you want, what do you want? And I always had a very specific thing in mind, as Grana probably remembers, of what I wanted, whether it be my Minnie and Me Minnie Mouse doll, or a baby doll that I'd been wanting, which I still have, or a new bike. He always would get me whatever I wanted. When I was a teenager, he bought me a CD, and I had been wanting it because I had liked this boy, and this boy had liked this song, and I wanted to listen to this song that this boy I liked listened to over and over and over and over and over again. And on the drive all the way home from Orange County to where I lived, which was about 2 hours in traffic, he let me listen to this one song, which was a very annoying song, over and over and over and over again. And he just smiled the whole time. He didn't complain. He didn't say I was singing off key, which I was. He never complained. He just wanted to listen to me sing for whatever reason. He let me listen to it over and over and over again. When I was 16, he asked me to he picked me up. I think we were celebrating my birthday or a belated birthday or something, and he said, well, where do you want to go? And I'm sure he was probably thinking somewhere near where my house was. And I said, well, can we go to Disneyland? And we drove the hour and a half, 2 hours, and we didn't go to Disneyland. We just went to downtown Disney. I think for whatever reason, Disneyland was closed that day. But he took me to downtown Disney, and we went to the Rainforest Cafe, and he took a picture of me underneath, I don't even know if it's still there, but there's a big Sorcerer Mickey hat that used to be right there by the Disneyland Hotel, and he just followed me around, letting me do back then we didn't have selfies. We carried around those little cameras you had to click back. Do you guys remember those? But he went around and let me take pictures in front of whatever I wanted. And he bought me a Mickey Mouse sweatshirt that I wanted, and I still have that sweatshirt, though it's about 20 years old now. He bought me my first car. I had a job, but I didn't have the money to get a car, and so he sent me the money to be able to buy my first car. It was a stick shift, and it was a cheap little car, but I'm always grateful for that car because I wasn't one of those teenagers who was driving around in a BMW. I had a cheap little car with a clutch, and I'm really grateful to this day that I learned how to drive that. And he always sent me money for Christmas and birthdays so that I could buy my kids nice gifts. He might have been a quiet person, but he really liked to give, and that's how he showed his love. He even bought me my first guitar, which I never learned how to play. I complained that the strings hurt my fingers because I'm a big baby, but my daughter now plays that guitar, so it's getting used well. But of all the gifts that he could have ever given me, the greatest gift that he gave me was our last conversation, which was on the phone. We texted back and forth here and there. We didn't have a lot of phone conversations, but I got to talk to him the day before he passed away, and he was pretty much the same as he always was. What else is new? What else is new? And then he got real quiet, and he said, I just want you to know something. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, I want you to know that I believe in Jesus. And I don't know everybody's faith here, but I am a Christian and I believe in Jesus. And so for him to tell me that really, really meant a lot to me. And I think he knew that is what I needed to hear from him. And he said that he knew that my mom would be waiting for him in heaven. The Bible says in Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Greg told me that he believed in Jesus, and he wanted to make sure I knew that. And I'll never forget that conversation. His confession of faith is a reminder that it's never too late to believe in Jesus. And it brings me peace knowing that he is no longer in pain or suffering because he believed in Jesus, and so he can live forever with him. So that's what I wanted to say, and if anybody else has some memory they'd want to share or something they'd like to say, the floor is open for you.
Hi everybody, my name is Isaac. I am Greg's nephew. My mom is Kim and my grandmother is Marie. I can't be there physically today at the celebration of life because of the closure of the US-Canadian border, but I'm able to be there by video. I'm coming to you from British Columbia. And where I'm at, I'm in a park right now, and this is the place closest to my house that I know my Uncle Greg would have loved. This is a mountain biker park, and so I had to dodge a bunch of those guys on the way in here today. The space behind me is my favorite spot in the park. Just the way that the sunlight goes through the trees always astonishes me. I want to share 3 memories of my Uncle Greg. First one, when I was a kid. Now, he lived in Southern California and we lived in Washington State. He was far away. I rarely saw him, but I heard about him regularly. And I would say, thinking back, what was he like to me at that time? He was my mysterious adventure uncle. I was always hearing about the crazy things that he would do. He lives in Southern California. Whoa. He lives at Mammoth. Oh, that's amazing. He's living in an ice cave this winter. What? Uncle Greg is jumping off of cliffs on skis. That was amazing to me as a kid. He was someone I aspired to be more like in that way. I wish that I could get to know him better. When I graduated from college, so now fast forward a bunch, I finally got the chance to do that. After college, I took a big road trip, and part of that road trip, I went to visit my Uncle Greg, and I spent some time with him. And the most interesting, most memorable point in that visit was, I was in really good shape at that time, all right? I'm 22 years old. I had run Division I cross country, great shape. I get there, he looks me over and he says, "Isaac, let's go bike up the mountain." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I don't even have a bike." "Oh, no problem, I got a bike, come on, man." So we go and bike up Mammoth. Now, I was in good shape, but he was in better shape. I chased him up that mountain and I feel like I barely made it to the top. By the time I got to the top, I felt like I was gonna puke. We get to the top, he looks over at me, he laughs, and he says, "Hey, you didn't puke. Almost everybody I bring up here pukes the first time." I've thought about that tons of times since. We biked down the mountain. I spent another couple of days with him. One day I spent working with him while we were there, and we installed windows in a new house that was being built. I just remember how fast he did everything. He was running around, throwing windows. He was telling me to hold them in places. I didn't know what I was doing. I almost dropped windows probably 5 or 6 times that day. No, I didn't drop any, which is great. Good memories of him. Moving forward further, the third memory I want to share is just a few years ago, 2016. In 2016, now me as a grown man, my own family, my wife, our 4 kids, we took a big motorhome trip. And as part of that trip, we went to visit my grandmother and my uncle. And so we thought we would spend just a couple of days in Bishop, California. But it turned out we got stuck there. I won't go into that whole story, but we got stuck there and we ended up spending 3.5 weeks in Bishop in Eastern Sierra. It was, I think looking back, we all would say it was the best part of our trip. I think you guys right now are at the Bishop Fairgrounds, right? If you're there, if you're watching this on site, physically on site. And so at that fairgrounds, we were there during Mule Days and my kids got to compete and they actually won cowboy hats in the mule tying competition. They'd never done anything like that before. So lots of good memories while we were there. The one that stands out with my uncle is just how he was with my kids. This was the first time he was meeting my children, and especially with the younger ones. We went to the mining museum together one day, and I remember he's just running around playing with my 2 younger kids just like he's their age. My Uncle Greg was a guy who always remained young at heart. He loved to have fun. He loved to enjoy life. He loved to be kind of wild, crazy, spontaneous. Those are parts of him that I will take away, remember, and aspire to be more like.
My wonderful nephew, Greg. Oh, you were such a cute little boy, and you never did outgrow that. I didn't get to see you a lot, but I've always loved you. We lived in Ohio, and because of the geography, it was a challenge to make trips back and forth. I'm sorry that my 5 children, your cousins, didn't get to grow up near you, but they did look forward to seeing you when we made that happen. I'm very sad that you had to suffer so much before you left us. But I'm glad that you're at peace now and with no pain. I love you, Greg. and I will keep you tucked in my heart forever.
The early ages were just like a mist and a cloud in Mammoth. It was pretty wild. I think Greg made a lot of short turns and was a really active skier. Greg went back down south, he went back to work, and I went up to Kirkwood. And I didn't see Greg for years. And then Scotty Flint and I were skiing together from Squaw and Kirkwood and stuff, and we're down in Mammoth, and I moved back to Mammoth and into the Miller house. Todd Norris, and I moved out really quickly. I got a new girlfriend. And Greg moves in. And then the next thing you know, Greg and Flint are skiing all the time, and I'm going out with Greg and Flint. Sorry, Flint couldn't come down today. And he was so happy to be back in the mountains and always expressed his intent and his joy at being here and being back in the mountains and just wanted to be here. And Tony was coming in and out of the group, and Polly and everybody, and Big John, and we all had a great time on the hill. And Greg just wanted to be here and enjoy his carpentry, his guitar, his craft of carpentry, and he showed me things that he was working on often, even this summer, just a few months ago, and his guitar, and he really relished that new Sunburst Les Paul he got. There's a video over there of him playing it. And he played it for me several times the last few months. He was just a great guy. He was full of life to the end. I'm glad he was here.
Thank you.
I met Greg since 1983. Greg was an excellent woodworker. We spent a lot of time skiing, snowmobiling. I remember we were on top of Laurel Mountain. Beautiful snow. We hiked up in the winter, dead of winter. Standing on top of the peak in the mist and watching Greg. He was an excellent skier, and just had a lot of good times with him in the backcountry, and he was a good guy.
Thank you.
I don't remember when I met Greg. It was probably around the same time Paul did. And he's one of those guys that I wish I'd gotten to know better and skied with him more, for one thing. And I'd heard he played the guitar, but I actually never heard him play in person. But the one good story I do have is Paul and I and Greg one time went and hiked the Sherwins on St. Patrick's Day. And it was just so much fun because we just joked around the whole time. I made this little video and I'm pretending to talk like a little con, and then he was wearing green skis, and it's probably the most fun I've ever had skiing the Sherwins. And that's one of the times that I just thought, well, wow, this guy can ski. Because he just dropped in first, I think, and it's just like, this guy's different. And I'll never forget that smile. I mean, it just hurt. We were smiling so much on that round. And then one other time we were skiing just on the mountain, and it was during the demo days, and people were trying different kinds of skis and so on, and I wanted to get this like a Warren Miller kind of shot over on Dave's. And Greg was way in the back, and everyone's making short swing turns, and all of a sudden I hear Greg saying, I can't see. But he was just still making perfect turns. He went right by me. It was amazing.
Wow.
So, again, he seemed like a quiet guy to me, too. He didn't say much, but you knew that there was always something going on up in his head that meant something.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think he was not an empty-minded person.
Nice. Thank you.
I think when I first met Greg, I rented a room. And every time I would leave town, he'd call me and he'd say, hey, Tony, is it okay if my dad comes up and goes skiing? I'm like, yeah, okay. The next thing I know, his dad's coming up every weekend. And I just rented him the room. So anyway, within about a winter and a half, he decided, you know what, I'm going to get my own place, because his dad was coming up all the time. But he ended up moving in a building over. And I just remember working with Greg out at Snow Creek once in a while, and after a couple of years, then he moved in right next door to me. And that was when things started to flourish. We frickin' roosted like crazy. We both had sleds, so we would wait for the foot to dump, or 2 feet, but Greg would always he'd wait for the big stuff. And that guy, he would go through, Pyramid was his favorite place to go,
Pyramid,
man.
he lived for that
Frickin'
place.
Pyramid, man. I don't know. It scared me. I went there with him once, and he had balls to the wall.
That's one of
That
the most
guy,
dangerous
no
spots
fear.
there was.
What is it? Actions speak louder than words. Frickin' Greg was like a calm ocean. I mean, but man, deep down, that guy could. One, he could ski, and he didn't care if he crashed his sled. He wanted that summit. And if it rolled down into a tree, well, I'll come get it tomorrow. I'll call Paul, and he'll come help me get it. So,
Yeah, he still did it as recently as 3 years ago before he got diagnosed, but he was probably already in stage 1 or stage 2 by that point. He was still riding up that thing
yeah.
3 years ago.
And
That was his favorite run.
Pyramid, man. And I tried to dice through there once when it was low tide, man, and it scared the heck out of me. I was like, I'm gonna hit something, but he just like knew as we snaked through that lower stuff, and I just watched him go. I ended up turning around and going back one day because I couldn't. I was like, I'm scared. I'm gonna destroy my machine in here. But he had a lot of courage, and I think that really showed at the end. I've never seen anybody so strong. You can never say what you would do if it ever happened to you. Just can't. But I've never spent that much time with a man that didn't complain. He was just like, make another day. He's so optimistic. And I just love that. I miss him. Miss him a lot.
Hi, this is kind of my tribute to Greg Johnson. I met Greg, I think we were just in elementary school. And our interests, when we first met, were in the Army and playing and doing the things that I guess you do when you're, at that age. Remember one of the first heartbreaks, though, is when Greg moved away. His father got transferred, and I think they moved to Oklahoma and then on to Asia. And that was pretty crushing for me. And much to my joy, I think I was about 14 years old or 15 years old. I knew I wasn't 16 because I didn't drive. Greg had moved back to Irvine and informed me that he played guitar, was into music. Well, just so happens I had picked up guitar too, so instantly we had something to bond to. And I think one of our first jam sessions we ever had was at his house. Greg also played drums very well. Greg was a very good drummer. And we used to jam on weekends. Since I didn't drive yet, I would take the OTTD bus to Irvine and 16 million stops. I don't know how long it took, but it was still great. Throwing the guitars on the bus, it was really fantastic. And then, we were playing in bands, and I think a lot about me and Greg's relationships. We would go years without seeing each other. We'd be doing one thing. I'd be working in school, or he'd be skiing and stuff like that. But every time we got back together, it was like no time had ever passed. It was just like I had seen him yesterday. We were just old friends that were rated like that. Greg got a hold of me, 3 or 4 months ago, and he said he would try for a while to get a hold of me. And I was so glad we talked on the phone, and it was just, again, like old times. We talked about music and guitars and amplifiers, all the stuff that, we talked about when we were kids growing up. In fact, the guitar I'm holding right now is Greg's Les Paul that he left to me. And I really treasure it. I never pick it up without thinking about my good friend. And I miss you, Greg. Till we see each other again, buddy. Love you, man.
Greg was not only my son, he was a best friend. We were bonded from the time he was born. We felt each other's love. And I have this poem I wrote expressing my feelings about life. And life is a prism, P-R-I-S-M. Within the crystal art form, I see the sun in its splendor, the moon in winking boldly, the sea in its turbulence and its calm, the snow-capped mountains towering just above the rolling cloud banks. The universe in perfect harmony. In the sun rays, the crystal is a prism, penetrating every heart and soul, magnifying wondrous beauty, reflecting each magnificent being. I want to thank all of you for being here and for the support you've always given Greg. He really cared about his friends. Every one of you. You made his life rich and full. You really did. He knew he had to leave us. The pain was so unbearable, and yet he kept hanging on to make sure that his life was complete. His hospice nurse, Mitch, was sent to him to help him let go and go to the place that he was supposed to be. In that room, several of you were there as well, there was this feeling of unity beyond anything I had ever experienced. It was like we were all one person, just we were all one spirit there. And like my daughter said, one of the things he kept saying almost to the end, I've had a great life. Being Greg's mom has been an honor through thick and thin, and we had those days, good and troubling. But we loved each other, and we knew that we loved each other, and that's why we were such good friends. I read thoughts about being a parent as a greater purpose, which I would like to read to you now. Powerful emotions of a parent held back to find their way, for the purpose best intended, the nurture of their children, now looking as they stand so tall, secure in all you've given, each being their own person. No task too large or small. Applaud yourself each morning as you begin your day. There is no greater gift than the reflection back to you of those very special persons you intended them to be. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, now we can socialize.
That sounds right.